so dense. I can't find my video now. That's going to be on the recording. Okay, here we are. A little technical difficulty getting started because they've changed all the buttons. They've moved them here and there and everywhere. And we're at the Crystal Clear Point Studios with Miles and Smiles of Events doing We're Talking Again. Watch out. And I have Luann Morris and Dr. Matthew Pierce with me, and I'm Deborah Colleen Rose. Hi. Everybody say hi.
Now, talk to you later.
Well, hello. Well, hello.
So what did we decide to talk about today?
I was thinking spiritual gifts. I thought that was the topic. I wasn't sure, if there was something else that was being presented, but hey, I'm open.
No, you're good. You're right. That's what we're doing. So now, just to kind of refresh everybody's memory a little bit, if they've watched us before, or if this is the first time you're watching us, we are all of different belief systems. So it's like the old joke, a rabbi and a priest and a Baptist preacher all walked into a bar. Here we are, because that's kind of what we are here. So I'm going to let Dr. Pierce start off with spiritual gifts. And first of all, what's the difference in a spiritual gift and a talent in your mind?
I think a spiritual gift, and I am of the firm belief that everybody has the same opportunity. I don't think that, God or creator or spirit would play favorites and say, okay, I'm going to give this gift to you and not to you. I don't feel that way at all.
Is it on a gift or a talent?
Well, I think that there's a gift because I think some people step into the gift. They can have the talent and they can be like, have that natural occurrence. But I think that some people actually have a gift for it. We've had conversations about your prophetic downloads and kind of how they come about. And it's that to me is one of your gifts because you've embraced it. When it's happening, what's going on, and there's no sort of barrier when you're like actually in the middle of it. I think that we see a lot of people out there that have a talent for it, but they have a tendency to have to work at it. And if you have to work at it, then it's not a gift, it might be a talent.
Yeah. So just for my clarification, to me, a gift is something given to us in the spiritual realm, and a talent is something that's more built into our DNA that we're born with. Like I have a talent for writing. I have a talent, but it doesn't mean that I can't be gifted to certain words to write. So there's an overlap there, but they're just some things that come naturally to us and they come easily to us. And to me, those are the talents. Maybe you're good at math. I'm good at math. I hate it. So, that's not a gift. It's just an annoyance. So that type of
talent
thing.
is not a gift. It's just an annoyance.
Yes, an annoyance. It's a necessity. It's a necessary evil. So what about you, Luann?
Well, I think I have both because growing up, I had premonitions. So that and I wasn't pursuing that sort of thing at all, but they just came to me. Some of them shocking, some of them not quite so shocking. The day my dad died, somebody was poking me because they said he's not coming back, and so I ran after him to talk to him, and I thought, why are you trying to talk to him? Because it's not going to change anything. So
I want to hold that thought because I think that's something really that's a good foundation for something that we can talk about a little further in the conversation, what you just said. I think that's a real good point.
But I think that is a spiritual gift.
Mhm.
It's something that was given. The talent I have would be where I learned to read tarot cards and then oracle cards, and then we did our own cards. Then I have a talent to be able to associate those cards with energy and feelings.
Okay, that makes sense.
No,
So
but I
like,
mean, do you think that that's a talent, or do you think, I mean,
I
because
think
I
it's a
kind of
little
see,
both.
I think it is too. I mean, because, when I look at the life's tapestry cards, that right there, that takes talent. There are not many
oh,
people that could bring their brains together to create an oracle deck as magnificent as the one that you all created. So
oh,
I really
sure.
think that that's a gift. I really do. I think that's a gift.
I think
She
it's a
forced me.
gift. I do too. I think it's a gift. I think the real gift is that the fact that we were motivated and we
Mhm.
felt compelled. And frankly, once we said we're doing this, neither one of us really rested until it was done.
Mhm.
There was a compelling force to get that done. And for whatever reason, I have my theories of why, but you know, um, I have a talent for writing, but then I'm compelled to write about certain things. And what I have found is that if I don't combine the spiritual gifts with the talents, the things don't always work out well for me. There has to be a combination of the two. But I think a lot of that has to do with my belief system. So believing, I think, is a component, a third party component in this as well. Does
Mhm.
that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Okay. Okay. Now, so let's just go down that rabbit. You know me, boy, this is going to be my new talent, getting us in that rabbit hole real quick. Well, just like the
Is it
third
a
week.
divergence?
Yeah. So, if you look, in case y'all don't know, I'm the Christian of the group. All right. If you don't know, when you look at spiritual gifts through a Christian perspective, of course, they go to the Bible for the definition. They're speaking in tongues, there's interpretation of tongues, there's, all these things. But the gifts are said to come strictly through the Holy Spirit, or I like the Holy Ghost. I guess that's that Pentecostal upbringing in me coming out. I like the Holy Ghost better than I do the Holy Spirit as title. And it is meant to encourage and uplift and in strengthen the Christian community or the church. That's the whole purpose of it. Now, so I think that a lot of times hard, staunch, very tunnel vision Christians, not me, but other Christians kind of get cattywampus about people using their spiritual gifts because they're afraid that they're going down a path where they're dealing with fortune tellers or they're dealing with evil spirits and that type of thing. So with that said, do the two of you want to jump in before I put my foot in my mouth or whatever here? So
We're
Well, I mean,
staying
coming
out
from
of it.
go ahead, Luann.
I said, I'm staying out of it.
Okay,
oh, come
well,
on. I promise not to put you on a stake.
hey, she's saying that to the Catholic, not the pagan. Okay, so I mean,
No, you'll just dance around the stake. So the heck with that. I can't even threaten you with this. You'll just be out there
well, I mean,
dancing.
from a pagan perspective, I mean, that terminology to me, I mean, I grew up in the church. I grew up in the Pentecostal church. And so I know what you're saying, and I know the vernacular, so to speak, the speaking in tongues and the prophetic ministries and, the gift of interpretation, the words of wisdom, the prophetic visions, all of that. I'm familiar with it. I got to, experience all of that firsthand, but I also got to experience in what I'm going to call the bastardization of spiritual gifts. If you're a healer and you have the gift of healing, okay, you also have to have the gift of discernment as well, because, you know, I saw a woman trip down the stairs in the front of the church, okay, and there were three healers sitting on the first row, okay. No one said, let's call 911 because I think this old woman broke a hip. They just rose up in their seats, raised their hands, and said, "Okay, God, you take care of it. We're the healers."
Oh my God. I shouldn't be laughing. I should not, but it's, I can't help it. Oh my God.
But that's the thing. That's the thing is like some people go so far into it that they don't see that they've like completely missed the point of having the gifts.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's kick it up even a notch higher. So, sometimes healing means calling 911.
Yep.
Okay. So if you fall in front of me and I call 911, I'm a participant in your healing. Okay. Not everything has to be a miraculous laying of energy. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing is that in the Bible, it's very specific in several places about using discernment. Look at that double blink. My NLP kicked in with Matthew. You got that double blink when I said that. But, so discernment is about wisdom, knowing what to do and when to do it. But it's also about discerning the origin of what you're dealing with. And this is where I get cattywampus in the metaphysical community, because when I hear people relate stories to me, I'm not making this up. People tell me things. I'm a private investigator. I have a sweet face. I listen intently. People tell me things, okay? And when they tell me that they went to have a reading, or there was somebody at a party there to entertain and they told them they were going to get a divorce, or they told them that they were going to get, have a near-death experience or whatever, you're like, why? Why? Now, my first question is that it's very likely that was true information. I don't discount the truth of the information. My point is that, number one, where did that information come from? Because not all information has the same source. And second of all, what was the point of telling them that? Did it encourage them? Did it empower them? Did it uplift them? Did it give them a better quality of life? No, it worried them sick, because they told me that. I'm not making an assessment. They told me that. They told me that they were horrified. So how do you justify the delivering information to people that does not add to the quality of their life? That's what I want to ask the community, whether it's Christian community, because Christians do the same thing. They get out there and they do this prophetic blah, 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 and the world's coming to an end, and read Revelations and blah, 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 and you're going to hell because it says that, what is the point of that? Seriously, what does that accomplish other than make you look foolish or make people hate you?
Or get you attention.
Well, it's really negative attention.
Negative attention is attention.
I don't like it though.
There are certain big. Go ahead.
Sometimes that's all people get is negative attention, so they crave any kind of attention.
Yeah, well, there are some mega churches around our area, okay, that crave attention. Okay, you have some people that can see it for what it is, but then you have other people that are so ingrained in what their teachings are that they can't see it. They can't see it for the hypocrisy. They can't see it for, you're doing this just for attention. Why? I don't know. I don't get it sometimes.
Well, I don't get it at all, and just to be clear to people that don't know me very well, I ran from my spiritual gifts most of my life. I used them secretly for my own family and for my, you're using your gift when you're in a foreign city and you don't know where Main Street is, and you're doing surveillance and you lose the person that you're following, and you pull over the road and go, if I were that person, where would I go? And you immediately go and find them.
Yeah.
Okay. That's in the spiritual realm. I don't care what anybody says. Okay. So, but did I talk about it? Oh, no. Did I share it? No. Did I try to give people positive information? Yeah, but not with any sense of dignity or authority or confidence. So it's only been since I died 10 years ago that I just kind of stepped into it and said, oh, the heck with it, who cares? So, and so all the things I thought that would make me look crazy, sound crazy, or whatever, I'm doing, and I'm doing them with gusto. So,
Right. Well, I mean, I guess when I was like very young is when I started realizing that I had certain gifts. Okay. And I always knew that they came from God, you know. But I mean, the church that I went to, I told my dad, and he's like, no, no.
your Pentecostal church didn't believe in that stuff, or they just didn't believe
No, they
you?
they believed in what the Bible said. Okay. As far as like me talking to a dead person in my bedroom, okay, and like recounting stories that he was telling me to my father, no, you don't bring that kind of stuff up. So I know that, like as a young kid, that I was discouraged to utilize and to like develop those gifts. It wasn't until later on in life that, I actually made a conscious choice, to leave the church, so to speak, and pursue my own education and my own, spiritual path. And so, with that being said, that's when I've discovered that it's like, well, wait a second, what I was doing back there, that was completely and totally natural to me. Why is it not showing back up in my life? And so then all of a sudden it started showing back up again.
Well, I think that's a
So,
very valid point. We have to accept it. That's why it's called a gift. We have to accept the gift.
hmm,
And I do believe that everyone is allowed to accept spiritual gifts because we're meant to be mind, body, and spirit. What's the point of being spirit if you don't live in that realm as well as the physical realm and in the
hmm.
mental realm and in the emotional realm? But again, it has to be willing to accept it. And then, just like anything else, you have to exercise it to strengthen it. And I don't think the gift itself has to be strengthened. I think our confidence and our ability to understand it has
I
to
can
be
get that.
strengthened. And so that's why we have to practice it. So my gift or gifts, because I have many, are just as strong as they were when I was 4, but I'm better able to manage them and to handle them and to share them, and there is discernment because in my world, I don't care, we're not arguing, I'm just telling you, my world, there is good and there is evil, and evil is chaos. Okay, for the definition of evil, it's chaos. Good is peace and contentment, and all is well in my world, and I'm doing what I feel like is my life purpose. And evil is chaos, and I'm unhappy, and I don't feel like I have any direction. So, for my purpose, evil and good, but that's what they mean. And I think people can accept that on any terms. And I think what really brought that home for me, though, was when I became a mother. And my 2-year-old son comes to me and he says, I'm talking to God. I didn't question that one bit. Been there, done that. Okay. But when he came to me later, several months later, and says that God had sent him a friend, and I'm like, really? Let's talk about that baby doll. And the friend had red eyes, and sometimes he looked like a pig. And then I asked him, well, why does he look like a pig? And he says, because pigs are the smartest animals. And so he comes to me because he wants me to know that he's smart. I said, do you believe that? And he goes, yeah, it's because it's the way it is in a lot of stories and I went, okay, so what is this friend of yours telling you? And the friend was telling him a lot of things, and some of them were good things. And then he came to me one day and says, my friend says that I can be a superhero and I can jump off the roof of our second-story house and I can fly. And I said, I want to meet your friend. And we literally, I mean, literally had a come to Jesus meeting. Okay. So, I didn't know that I believed that until I was confronted with it, and then I believed it. And I think that's what discernment is about. Just because you can talk and hear and see things on another realm, supernatural especially, doesn't mean it's good for you. That's my belief.
So a question for both of you. Okay. I
Uh-oh.
mean, do you
Test.
feel that like, the hindrances of the gifts and talents is because we choose not to work on ourselves.
What? Say that again?
The hindrance of people stepping into their natural gifts and natural talents is because we don't take the time to work on ourselves, to clear the blockages and get things out of the way. Because I know that I grew up, and I'm just going to say it point blank, with the Pentecostal upbringing, that it was bad and it was wrong. And I had to kind of go through deprogramming for me to understand that, no, this is natural. This happens.
Well, I do believe that if people it kind of frightened me.
Mm,
So I didn't pursue it. And I lived in a little country town. I didn't know any psychics. They didn't have any, and I thought, well, it is what it is. If it comes, it comes. But I know it particularly shook me when I had the one about my dad.
mm.
My answer is a little complicated.
It always
Well,
is.
look who's giving the answer.
So it wasn't that I didn't want to work on myself. I found the gifts easy. I found slipping into them easy. What I didn't want was, number one, my grandmother had the gifts, and we talked about it from an early age. And a lot of people around me and in our family referred to my grandmother as crazy. And I didn't want to be thought of as crazy. I have known all of my life that I was odd. And I've gone through different periods of my life where I have really tried to fit in. And so I didn't want to be crazy. And then when my parents divorced and I lost the only really contact I had for having those kind of discussions, I think that I was in such a deep resentment and anger and depression during my teenage years, I didn't give much thought to it. And then in my 20s, oh my God, I studied every religion, every philosophy. I went to every pagan group I could find. I went to every church I could find that seemed to be, out of the normal lane, off center, classes. I still have remnants in my house of different spiritual people and teachers I went to, and none of them, everybody had like a little morsel or a little gem of information,
Oh, yeah.
but it's like nobody really had any better answers than I did. And I resented that, honestly. I resented that I couldn't find someone that I could say they're smarter than I am and they know this better than I do. And really just, gosh, if some really good cult leader had gotten a hold of me in the 20s, man, they would have had a great, disciple, because I was looking for a teacher.
Mm.
Looking for a teacher. And so then after that, I guess in my mid-30s, I said, screw it. I'm just going to do what I do. But I'm still not going to be out loud about it because I worked in the legal profession where there's no room for voodoo stuff.
Right.
It's all black and white, the law, blah, blah, blah. However, there's something about me that all my clients knew I was woo-woo. So, I actually attracted clients that liked that, because I would say, this is what's going on, and I'll get you the proof to prove it. So I always work backward on my cases.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Makes total sense. From a spiritual perspective, I can recount numerous times that, I just thought that I was, doing me, that I was just like being me. I didn't consider that I was using a gift or anything else like that. I didn't,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was just, I came to a realization that, like, I guess I have one story that I have in mind that it's like, it wasn't until I actually got to the tail end where it was people started questioning what I was doing and why I was so popular, and why, was I brainwashing, was I doing this, was I doing that? Oh yeah, absolutely. I worked for a Christian camp in Pennsylvania, okay, and the camp director came to me one year and said, "Hey, listen, we have a group of kids that that I think that you would be interested in teaching." And I was like, okay, great. I mean, and they were like, preteens, like just before, like, 13, 14. So it was kind of a junior camp. And I had 4 kids. I mean, that was it. I had 4 kids in my camp. Okay. I mean, and it was a big camp, so, we used up like, 3 cabins. It was, I mean, it was like, but, then the next year, like I had, it was like 48. And so
Oh,
48 kids came to me, and by the time that I was finished in the 5 years that I was at that camp, my camp, when they announced it, was at capacity. We took up every single cabin, every single Adirondack, every single tent.
that's so
I mean,
cool.
we had probably a good 800 kids, like, in that week. Okay. And I saw miracles. I saw absolute miracles. And the one that just comes to mind, though, like I said, they were saying that you know, I was a cult leader. Okay. I remember a girl came in and she had the scraggly hair and she wouldn't interact and she just didn't want to be there. She would always complain, I want to go home. I want to go home. And I had a conversation with her and I prayed with her and I said, hey, give it 24 hours. I was like, if you can just give it 24 hours, you can see how you feel. If you don't want to be here, then that's fine. I'm not going to hold you here. I'll call your parents myself and have them come get you. And so we went through the whole day. She hardly ate. She hardly, did anything. Her eyes were sunken in. It was bad. You could see the depression just had a hold of her.
Mm.
And she went through the entire day and we had, our evening lesson and so on and so forth. And she came up to me and she goes, well, I can't remember what the lesson was on, but I remember the question. I remember her questioning me. She looked at me and she goes, but I did something bad and I don't think that God will ever forgive me.
Oh, 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 oh.
And I turned around and I took her by the shoulders and I said, listen, I was like, if you ask forgiveness, know that he's going to give it. That's the kind of God he is. And if you give him a chance, you'll see miracles happen in your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me and she goes, I don't know what that means. And I said, well, then I'm praying that a miracle will happen and you'll see point blank the power that God has. And she goes, okay, whatever. Okay. The next morning, about 6:30 in the morning, 2 of my counselors, my female counselors, came running into my the director's cabin and was like, bang, 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 bang. And I was like, whoa, whoa, what's going on? So, and they're like, hey, you have to come now. You have to come now. And I was like, what's going on? And they're like, you have to come now. It's like, okay. And so we started going towards the bathhouse. And I was like, was there an accident? Did someone fall? Do we need to call an ambulance? I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out. And they're like, no, no, just watch. And I was like, what am I watching for? And all of a sudden, this girl came like stepping out of the bathhouse, and she had the most gorgeous, glowing, curly, blonde hair that you've ever seen in your entire life. They looked like a beautiful mane of just golden hair.
Wow.
Okay, and she was just glowing, and I went, no. And she came up to me and she wrapped her arms around. And she goes, I got my miracle.
Wow.
And I went, what happened? What happened? And she's like, I claimed the miracle last night. I claimed that I wanted to know the loving God. And she goes, and then this morning she goes, I was washing my hair and I started putting shampoo on it. And then all of a sudden I was pulling out clumps of hair and I started panicking. And she goes, I heard God say, let it happen.
Wow.
And so she took, and just all of the hair that was crinkly and dry and everything else like that turned into this beautiful mane. Well, she shows up at breakfast, okay? And she's like, can I have another order of pancakes?
Hmm.
Within well, actually, it was about 2 days. Within about 2 days, she was eating regular meals. She had friends. She was enjoying life. Her eyes had popped out of her head, and she had gained like 3 pounds.
I love it. Oh my God, I
Okay.
love it.
And so, with all that being said, she became an active part of the camp, and she wanted to give her testimony, and she was telling everybody about how God helped her and how God like can do miracles and so on and so forth. And after she started doing that, people started listening to her, and we had other miracles that happened.
And
It
more
just
of this.
went like on and on and on and on. There were healings. I mean, there were people that were, I mean, completely, like depression had set in, okay, and they were thinking that they were going to commit suicide. And we had kids that were coming up and saying, I don't want to do that anymore.
Okay, I gotta ask Matthew,
Ask it.
because I'm on the verge of tears. I'm so kerplunk. With being so many people beg, so many people desire, so many people angst to witness those kinds of things and never get the opportunity to for whatever reason. Why do you no longer identify as Christian?
It's not that I don't identify as Christian, because I know that God is a powerful God, but I don't claim to put anyone in a box anymore. Okay. God to me is the universe. God to me is the everything. And so whatever like spiritual belief that I have, I mean, seriously, whatever spiritual belief that I have, you know, that's what I fit in. I mean, it just so happened this was at the time period, in my high school and college years that I hadn't explored other religions. I was going to be a pastor. I mean, that's what I was training to do, you know. But then again, I mean, when you get to the end of the story, you might understand a little bit more about why I kind of started looking for something else, because that camp ended. Okay, that camp ended, and everybody went home. Okay, I was there at the camp for about probably about another 3 or 4 weeks, and we got a call from the camping association that I needed to appear for the camping in front of the camping association's board of directors. And I said, okay, okay. And so I went. I didn't know what was going on, had no idea. Well, I was accused, okay, of false teaching. I was accused of being a false prophet. I was accused of being a charlatan and trying to indoctrinate kids. And I mean, the list of what do you call it? Charges against me.
Accusations.
Yeah, actually, I think that we had a couple, I mean, possessions there, and they got, unpossessed, or, we exorcised that demon out of them. I really believe it. I don't know it personally, but I really believe that there was that kind of energy, and it wasn't really by me. It was by the kids and them sharing and them coming together in a spirit togetherness, you know? So anyway, they charged me with this thing, and I was just like, but who brought the charges? Who brought the charges? And there were a couple of people there that stood up and go, "Oh, we did." And I'm like, "Okay." And I was like, "And who are you?" You know? And she goes, the mother said, she goes, "Well, we're the mother of," I'll call her Golden Mane. She
Yeah,
goes,
miracle girl.
she goes, "I didn't know who she was when she came home."
Oh my God.
She goes, because she started interacting, she started eating, she started taking care of herself, she started engaging. She goes, so something happened.
Hmm.
And we just, I mean, it scared us. And I kind of was like, I was flabbergasted. And one of my counselors that came with me, she turned around, she goes, but isn't that what camp is for? I mean, to really, really experience God at a different level. And she goes, so the changes that happened, were they bad or were they good? And the mother was like, no, 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 they were, they were good changes, but still, we don't believe that that should have been taught.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And so there was a shouting match that happened between my counselors and these parents, and then other parents started joining in, and blah 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 blah, so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, the room, like the back doors, flew open. Okay, and kids started flowing in and filling up the seats. And my golden mane came forward, walked up to the front table, and she goes, "Why are you doing this?" He didn't do anything but show me the truth. That's it. And he did what God sent him there to do. And she turned around and walked up to her parents and she goes, if you're so scared of such a positive change in me, she goes, then I don't deserve to be your daughter. Because if you can't accept God for who he is and the wonderful things that he does through other people, then you don't deserve to be a Christian. And the whole place just went nuts. Well, long story short, I was dismissed. They took everything away from me, and I never taught at that camp again. To this day, they do not have a quote unquote youth and senior program.
Oh my Lord.
So,
It's amazing that I always think it's a win, even if you change one person.
it was amazing. I mean, that week was filled with so many. I mean, I could rattle off, a bunch of names, not a bunch of names, but a bunch of things that happened. A kid, was a chain smoker. I mean, I caught him like several times, and I told him, "Hey, God can take that away if you want it." He accepted that, and he stopped smoking. Okay, there was like depression. I saw depression just slip away into happiness. Okay, I saw people so gripped by fear that when I took them on the ropes course, we got finished with the ropes course. We did it together. Okay, that they wept in my arms for 45 minutes because they conquered their fears.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. The ropes course is terrifying to some people.
I
So,
mean, but from the standpoint of, what we're talking about, from, gifts or talents, um, I didn't see it as a gift. I didn't see that as a gift. I just thought that I was talented enough to be able to put two and two together, that God was a good God. And I was able to actually like articulate that.
well, what's really pitiful, absolutely pitiful, is that you were working with your gift that God gave you. And because of that, you were a gift to those children, and those parents literally shat on those gifts. And I see this and hear this so many times, so many, 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 many times. And even now, Miles of Smiles is our sponsor. We all come together because of this little gig business that I started because I pissed somebody off and they fired me. Let's be honest. I pissed somebody off, they fired me, and I'm like, I want to still do gigs. So I started my own business because why? I'm used to being the Lone Ranger and doing things by myself. And I, I hear people, and Luann has heard people because we've shared stories, and I know Matthew has heard these stories where people go and go, I love God, but nobody talks to me about God. Or they'll come up and say, is this okay? Is God going to be mad at me for talking to you?
Mm.
And what's happening here is that people are so hungry to connect with God in any form or fashion that they will defy their church and the staunch beliefs that have been crammed down their throat to come and talk to a gig entertainer. And I firmly believe that we have experiences that many people don't have, because we do radiate the energy, the love, the acceptance that we are working in our gifts. Yes, we entertain, but we're working in our gifts. And that's honestly, that's the only reason why I work gigs. If I wasn't able to work in my gift at a gig, I wouldn't do gigs. They're annoying to have to deal with sometimes. I love being with the people, but the circumstances around it, the business side of it. I don't like doing the business side of it. I to this day, I'm going, okay, I'm trying to manifest an agent here. We need an agent, just someone to manage us, keep us corralled, tell us when to show up, that type of thing. And that is such a profound story that you just told. And I was on the other side of that story. I was the kid that got kicked out of church for questioning the lack of what I saw God-given authority and questioning the lack of God-given love and the staunch it's this way or you're going to hell. Well, where's the love in that? So
Well, I think I told everybody before the reason why I actually left the church, because I had a big mega church experience, and literally someone told the pastor of the singers group that I was gay. And he walked me out of the church and says, until you get yourself straight with God, you're no longer allowed here. And I made a point that I was like, if that's the kind of God that you worship, that's not the kind of God I want to worship. And that's what started my journey, and so I started studying other religions and, other spiritual faiths. And, that's how I came to be who I am right now. I can fit in anywhere. I can fit in anywhere. It's because I don't have a hang up, about going to a Muslim church. I don't have a problem, going and having, food served to me by, people who, worship Hare Krishna.
Oh, they make the best food.
Oh,
It's delicious.
but I have no, I have no problem going to Diwali and, celebrating Ganesh.
Yeah.
It's just, I can fit in anywhere because I don't have, I guess, a preconceived notion about what I should be doing. I'm just like gracious to be there. But I think that that's a gift too.
But here's what's interesting to me. Luann has this really calm energy, and people embrace that in certain circles. And you fit in everywhere. I fit in anywhere I want to. It's just whether or not I want to. But people are drawn to you in a way that you could have a cult if you wanted one. I mean, seriously, you could. And I freak people the hell out. I do. I mean, people are freaked out by me, and I don't understand what it is about me. I'm not saying that I'm not freaky. I just don't understand what freaks people out about me. But once they spend time with me, they're drawn to me. But before they get to sit with me or spend a few minutes with me, they're freaked out. And I have a hard time seeing how people see me, and I feel like that's a detriment to my gift. And I'd like to do something about that. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It makes sense. But I mean, it's like, my question is like, we've just experienced it. How do we go about sharing that? I mean, okay, so I'm going to draw okay, Luann, I'm plugging you, okay? One of Luann's talents and one of her gifts is the products that she makes. Like her knowledge of herbs and the knowledge of how to combine them and put them together, like come out in a physical form. I mean, she does, okay, the Reiki hand cream, I mean, literally, my hand is like clearing up. I mean, I don't have like these big blotches on my hands anymore. Okay. Because that hand cream, I mean, that cream is doing it for me. Okay. I love it. I use it every single day, like in the morning and in the evening. But you have something physical that you can like say, here's my talent. And people can agree with her, like, oh my God, this is amazing. Okay. And so in contrast to that, we're talking about spiritual gifts, and how do we teach that? How do we give that away so people realize like that they do have talents like that?
Well, I don't know. I try to put myself out. It's really, I'm out of my comfort zone around groups of people. I am very much an introvert. I am very much an observer. I'm very much an analytical person. So I like to sit and watch people, hence being a private investigator for 30 years. Okay.
Right.
But so I really push myself to get out of my comfort zone to be around groups of people when I can and how I can. So like I participate in a Bible study with prophetic ministry, and I'm now putting out to where I'm going to be doing prayer requests with our prophetic group and doing that type of thing. I'm doing more community events, going out and doing our gig stuff. But again, I'm going to tell you, anytime I go out in public, God always comes up in the conversation and I don't initiate it. I just don't. But if it's
Luann, you said that that happens to you too?
Oh, when we went to the apartments,
the village,
Oh,
the
okay,
village
that
where
was
they
the,
have
yeah.
their own world, um, I had the glass that Deborah gave me. And it was, you're this, you're that, you're this. And there was a scripture to go with each one. And the lady goes, "That's very unusual."
Mhm.
And I said, "What's that?" "You have a glass with scripture on it." "Oh, yeah. A friend gave it to me because she wants me to remember this, this, and this." And she goes, "But that doesn't go with reading cards." I said, "Sure it does. Where do you think I get my talent?" And so she was like, "Okay, well." She
Well,
was just aghast, I guess.
well, it's funny because on that same night, I had a person that came to me and said, "So, are you a Christian group? Are you a Christian group?" And I was like, "Well, no, not necessarily." I was like, "I know that, a couple of people here have different opinions than I do." And he goes, "So, well, what are you?" And I said, "I'm a witch." And he's like, "How can a witch hang out with two Christians?" And he was flabbergasted that I was actually there reading with you all, because he thought it was a Christian type organization. He didn't have a problem that it was Christian. I mean, he was just questioning why a pagan was sitting in the middle of them.
Well, the question he should have been asked is, why is a Christian hanging out with a witch? That's the real question.
Well, I think that because you had the upbringing that you had, and I have also done tons of research on Wicca and witches and all that stuff. So it's not like it's foreign to me. I understand it. Um, I've been known to do a spell or two, but so it's a mix of, and Deborah is exposed to it because her husband what does he call himself?
I don't
Pagan?
know. I don't
Okay.
know.
All right. So anyway, we all have a mix of that in our lives anyway.
Right.
Well, here's the thing I have found, and this is true of any category that people fit into. If you're respectful of yourself and respect yourself enough that you can extend that respect to other people and not cram things down their throat, you can get along with just about anybody.
Absolutely.
Which brings up my pet peeve, and that's on social media when one group bashes another group, whether it be Christians bashing pagans or pagans bashing Christians, because you know what? They all act badly as a group.
Mhm.
They all do. They all do. Nobody's got the monopoly on acting badly. You know, it just depends on what the subject matter is about and who you're going to focus on. So, I don't even want to get off on that today because I'm feeling
I know,
emotional.
because what I think is, if people are interested in learning about God and they know that you're have a religious background, then I'm going to wait for them to ask me. I'm
Mhm.
not going to force my beliefs on them. But if they ask me about my beliefs, I'll tell them.
Well, that same night that you're talking about, I had 3 or 4 different little clusters sit down at my table, and we had similar conversations, like, are you I mean, they'll just ask me. A lot of times they'll say, "Do you believe in God?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And they're like, "Are you a Christian?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And then and I had one lady that night say, "Well, how do you justify reading cards?" And I wanted to say, "Well, why are you sitting at my table?" But I didn't. I didn't. I just said, "Well, to be honest, I don't read cards." She went, "What?" I said, "I don't read cards." I said, "The cards are just kind of a prop because we're here to entertain. We are here as entertainers." And I said, I said, "We have to do things to encourage you and to uplift you and do it very quickly. So they are like a tool of focus. I focus on what the basic message of the cards are. And then I ask God, what does that message really entail for that person?" So I could actually have the same 3 cards for 3 different people, and it's going to be 3 different messages,
Yep.
you know.
Exactly.
And that's not uncommon to do, even, but to have people pull the same cards over and over and over, because groups of people tend to have commonalities and energy. And if they're pulling cards based on what they feel, a lot of the times they're going to pull up the same cards. So, if nothing else, you better be a good entertainer just to be able to give different messages. Because if
Well,
all 3 people get together, go, "Well, she told me that," and "Well, she told me that," well, then they're going to say, "Well, she's just an idiot."
well, I kept getting, I was reading an Oracle deck then, but that was before we had our own. And I kept getting this, it was a court, like a judge and a courtroom scene. And I don't remember what the words were. And I said, how come everybody's getting this? Is there some kind of lawsuit going on? Or, oh, yeah, there is, our what is that? H
HOA.
HOA, our HOA is suing blah, 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 blah. And I was like,
Uh,
I said, so do you live in this neighborhood? Yeah. So from that point on, I started questioning everybody that got that card. Do you live in this neighborhood? Okay, now I know what's going on, because everybody was getting the same card. And I thought, something's weird.
I think we should start I don't know, I'm just going to use the word church because it's easy, but I think we should start something. Everyone is hungry.
Yeah.
They're hungry. And I say that all the time. Everyone's hungry. And I think we have a lot to offer people. And I think we could feed a lot of that hunger. But I don't know exactly what that looks like.
Well, it looks more like something non-denominational,
I,
because from my perspective, if somebody's going to ask me, I'm going to tell them, but what are you looking for?
Well, can we state that in the positive? Because I have a thing about the word non-denominational. It's a negative.
Really?
Non. Yeah, non. It's a non. That means it's non-existent. It's not real. Non is null, negative. So we need another word.
It
well, I
simply
actually have,
means no dimension. Oh, sorry.
yeah, yeah. I was going to say exactly what you were going to say, Luann. So say it.
It means there's no specific religion supported by the group, because
Well,
it's the religious.
denomination.
Yes, it's the religious dogma that we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
But it's all denomination. We're an all denominational church.
Well, I mean, non-denominational is inside the criteria of Christian, okay, or the Christian church, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So non-denominational. I mean, so if it was, all inclusive, it would be ecumenical.
Okay, so that's a difference in the wording.
See, I knew there was an answer to this. I knew there was.
And so, I mean, because then that would embrace everything. If you came in and said that, well, I don't agree with that, well, great. Okay.
I'm not I'm not going to teach classes on multiple deities though. I just can't go there. It makes me laugh. I just does. I can't do it.
But
I'm
I
too
think the
lazy.
point is,
I'm too lazy.
that anybody can come, and it depends on what questions they have.
Yeah.
Yeah. we'll help them define what the answers that they need for the questions that they're asking, not force our views on them, but help them. I just had this happen a couple of weeks ago. I was talking with someone and they go, well, I believe in a higher power. And when I asked them to define higher power, they couldn't. They couldn't define what higher meant. They couldn't define what power meant. They couldn't tell me if that thing had more power than they did, and if it did, where that power came from and what they would do with that power if they had it. And I'm like, then how do you believe in that when you can't even come up with some simple criteria for it? And that really set into motion a lot of things that helped them. I wasn't challenging their belief, I was asking them to clarify their belief. And we got there. We got into that clarity position to their satisfaction. To me, those were just logical questions. If that's what you believe, and maybe I want to believe that with you, but what is it that we're believing together?
Yeah, you have to find a commonality.
Yeah. So, and that just, to me, that was again my gift at work, because I had never thought of that. I didn't go into that conversation going, oh, I'm going to trick them. We're going to get them to do this. No, they just said that. And I said, well, what does that mean exactly? And that just popped out of my mouth. And the next thing I know, we have a litany of questions coming out of my mouth, and with no thought from my head at all. I didn't think of it. So, but I showed up and I opened my mouth.
Well, I think
Well,
that's why a lot of times when I get certain cards, I tell people, if you don't, especially the grounding card, you need to spend some time in meditation for yourself.
Yeah.
You need to know yourself. And one of the ways you do that is just to go out in nature and be quiet for 5 or 10 minutes. Feel the grass on your feet, hear the wind in the trees, feel the wind as it goes across your skin. Just be in the moment.
I do have to
Luann,
laugh when I hear someone say that they're Christian and they believe that meditation is not of God. I'm like, what do you think Jesus was doing for 40 days in the desert? Hanging out playing bingo? What the hell?
I ask people all the time, what is the difference between meditation and prayer?
Yeah.
What is the
What is it?
difference between meditation and prayer?
Is there a difference?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And there's
My
a difference in
definition is this.
meditation, prayer, and conversation with God. I talk to God all the time. I realize I don't pray very often. And so, hence, I'm now praying.
But the difference between prayer and meditation is this. Prayer is asking. Meditation is shutting up so you can get
and,
the answer.
and listening. And conversation is lamenting. And lamenting is allowed in the Christian faith. We have a whole book on it.
Yeah.
It's called Lamentations. Go read it. They were really bitching.
And sometimes that's okay, but you have to get to the point where, just like Luann said, that you get yourself quiet enough that you can hear the answers.
Exactly. 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 Why do we make this so difficult is what I wonder. Why is it so hard? And why do we feel the need to be right in what we say?
That's the key right there. Why do we feel that we need to be right? Why do we need to be justified for our beliefs, our spirituality? It's personal anyway, so why should I force that on
Exactly.
you?
When it's
Well,
personal, it's different for everybody.
Well, that's kind of what I say at the gigs. People will say, "Well, how accurate are you?" And I just look at them and go, "Well, I'm human. I have the right to be wrong, but I never am." And sometimes they just accept that at face value. That cracks me up. And then other people go, "What do you mean?" I'm like, I'm not wrong because I believe what I'm saying."
Yeah.
And everything is open to interpretation. So that's what that means. I'm not trying to be, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to be silly. I'm not trying to be self-righteous. I'm trying to be silly, so.
Well, I mean, going back to the original topic, as far as, our gifts and our talents, there's a thin line between them. And I think that, you could probably make, the definition for either one. I kind of go back and forth and back and forth, you know, as far as like, well, is that a talent or is that a gift? You know, I think it's how you use it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I will say
You must
this, my
use it for good.
not evil. I do say this, my gifts give me a lot of peace of mind and contentment and joy and happiness in the spiritual realm, but they do isolate me at times in the physical realm, and I do feel lonely in the physical realm because of my gifts. So there is a double-edged sword there at times, in my opinion. Um, and but I think that's the way it's supposed to be.
Mhm. I mean, I have a different experience. So, I mean, it's not that I get lonely. I have a lot of people I can talk to.
Well, I have a lot of people I can talk to. I just don't have a lot of people that I can relate to.
And I think
There
you
you
missed
go.
the point. I have a lot of people that I can talk to. They might not necessarily be
Oh,
here, but I have a lot of
oh.
people I can talk to.
Well, but that puts you back on the spiritual realm.
Still, I'm hardly lonely.
Well, I get lonely when I want to go out drinking and I don't have anybody I can go drinking with. Or like I can't tell you how much pleasure our lunch was for me the other day. To be able to have someone that I could sit and talk to on a level that I don't have with very many people. And I hate saying that because it sounds arrogant. I'll be honest, it sounds arrogant. But what I find is that when I go into these really deep conversations with a lot of people, all of a sudden they want to argue and they want to change my mind. I don't want to do that. I just want to talk and compare notes and ponder what you're saying to see if I need to take some of that and embrace it or go, oh my God, Matthew's just lost his mind today. What is he talking about? He's just silly, you know, and do it in a way that everybody's happy and content. And I don't know if it's just that way in general or people are just losing the ability to have the art of conversation. I don't know.
I think that's it. I think they're losing the ability to have the art of conversation. I think
And
the beautiful, go ahead, Luann.
they're not willing to have a discussion and say, well, we'll agree to disagree. But they won't have a discussion because they're trying to turn you to do what they do.
Okay, I'm going to tell both of you, don't ever say that to me. That pisses me off. It
What's
sounds,
what?
we'll agree to disagree
Oh,
because so many people say it with such a snarky tone of voice. It just annoys me now just to hear that phrase. So here's what you can say to me. That's what you believe. And I have another belief, and we love each other, and we're just going to embrace each other.
So we can agree to disagree.
I'm going to slap all four of your cheeks individually when I see you. But hey, here's the other side of the coin. If you really want me to feel loved and accepted and feel really good if I'm ever in a panic mode, all you have to do is go, Deborah, I got you. That is such a wonderful button for me that I can hear it in a movie and I'm like, oh, I
Oh,
just love that phrase. Oh, they got me. Oh, and because it can mean so many things. It can mean they have my back. It means they understand me. It can mean so many different things. I got you. It's just, ooh, it's a good anchor for me. I like it. But don't say we'll agree to disagree. I don't like that.
it's a phrase that I don't have a problem with. So you might hear me, and if you have to smack me around, okay.
I'll just stick my tongue out at you. Very few things really annoy me. I mean, I can just say I don't like them, but it's not like I carry it around all day in a sack like Santa Claus. Oh, look at all the shit I got in my back that I don't like.
Well, the one thing I like about this group, especially of the three of us, is that we are communicating. Okay, we usually start the communication out with, okay, well, do you want to bitch or do you just want to want me to listen or do you want advice?
I love that. I love that about us. I do. I love that about us. And then the other side of the coin is like, I'm going to say this to you, and I say it, and I hope it doesn't make you mad, but I'm willing to make you mad because you need to hear it.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you think we have
whatever.
the FFU, Deborah? You know, I've had those moments. I've
Well,
had those moments.
this is your fault, Matthew, because now when she starts in trying, I've got to tell you this, and it's going to make you mad. And she tells me, and then she goes, okay, now you can say fuck you, Deborah. I said,
Well, I would actually pre-qualify that and say, how do you know I'm going to be upset?
I'm like,
because
well, let's just wait and see. We'll find out, won't we? Because now I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. So we'll find out. There won't be any surprises in a minute.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, if you like always set it up with, okay, well, I know this is going to piss you off, or this is going to make you mad. Okay. Every time you have a conversation with Deborah now, it's going to be like, what I do, what I do wrong. Okay.
Well, no, that's just me saying that I love you and that based on our history, I know that you've had knee-jerk reactions to something similar to this. And so I'm not plundering in here with stupidity. I'm moving in here because of necessity.
So, Luann, would you rather hear that, or you know that I love you?
Yeah.
you know that I love you, but I need to
I need to say
point
some
this out.
things.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I love you both, but I'm also willing to smack all four of your cheeks individually when you need it.
Well, no, I'm not going to start this now.
Oh,
Well,
no.
just, I mean, because you had said something before the broadcast, you said that you had to make it short for 2:30. So I'm just acknowledging the time.
Okay,
So
thank you. But let me tell you something. How come the past 3 weeks y'all have made me cry? Y'all have got what is this like this new game that y'all have put together behind my back that let's see if we can make Deborah cry on the podcast or
It's
what?
a
What's the
talent.
deal? It's a talent. It's a gift.
Luann and I actually get together and we say, how can we make her cry today?
I just wonder
No,
if I'm finally going through menopause really late or something because I just cry on a drop of a hat lately.
it's an opening. You're being open to new things. And crying is a part of that, that it hits deeper. You know, there are certain things that are going to hit deeper. You know, you've told me that you've been getting more and more downloads. You've been getting more and more, you know, the wisdom is just like kind of popping out. You know, occurrences and coincidences and all those things are happening to you. You're experiencing life on at a different level. And so when you take some of those things in that is like really meaningful to you, crying is normal.
Okay, so with that said, I want to end our podcast with a short little tell. I have been getting a lot of things since the total eclipse 2 weeks ago. And I can feel things becoming bigger and brighter, and I feel more confident, and I feel stronger, and I feel like a lot of residual stress in my psyche is dropping off. And but here's the upside to gifts. We've talked about gifts and it's about giving to other people and sharing things with them, but we get gifted as well. And here's my example of that. I had a dream last night and I had a very volatile relationship with my father. And the last 10 years of his life, he was very bitter over life in general. And I was one of his scapegoats when we would try to interact. And I have no recollection of my father ever telling me that he loved me directly and he refused to hug me. And my stepmother actually tried to make him hug me the last time I saw him physically, and he just wouldn't, he just wouldn't. And I was a daddy's girl as a little girl. And so to have that extreme in our relationship has always been a deep regret in my life. And he died 2 years ago. And I had a dream last night where I found a letter that he had written to me. Now, this is a dream. This is not real, but it's a dream. And I found this letter that he'd written to me, and it was pages and pages and pages. But all I remembered from the dream was one sentence: I love you, baby girl. And that was a huge gift. And it was a healing, and it was a visitation, and it was a promise to something that I know because of my own near-death experience, that there are healings after the body goes, and that there is something past this. This is just one stage, but let's make the best of this stage. Let's make the best of it. Okay, Luann, tell them how to find you and about your new wonderful website.
Oh, you can go to www.ancientherbalapothecary because it is now live and online. And you can email me at Luann, Luann, at ancientherbalapothecary.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. And her products are wonderful. I've been using them for
Okay.
years. Been using them for years. I have a bottle of elderberry syrup in my refrigerator right now, and the minute I get a tickle, I'm chugging that stuff. I'm chugging it. So it's wonderful.
Well, I mean, I can't wait to do your the cherry
Oh,
elixir,
okay.
because I've been reading up on that, and so that to me is going to be
Awesome. All right, Mr. Pierce. No, I'm sorry. Dr. Pierce, tell us about you.
You can get a hold of me at MatthewAPierce.com. You also get a hold of me at connectionsdesignstudios.com, and then Matthew at metaphysicalevents.com, or any of the other ones. So Matthew at MatthewAPierce.com, or Matthew at Metaphysical Events and connectionsdesignstudios.com.
And Dr. Pierce is helping me with my own personal branding. He's helped me with the branding of Miles of Smiles, and we're still building on that. But let me say this, if you need information to make good decisions, I have different ways of doing that. If you need legal facts, ISGU, investigativesolutions.group.com. If you need mental and emotional information, coaching by Deborah Colleen Rose at deborahcolleenrose.com. And if you need some spiritual fun and enlightenment and encouragement and empowerment, milesofsmilesevents.com. We've got information on all the levels. And I'm Deborah Colleen Rose, and we're talking again. Watch out. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.